The Daffodils and Diamonds Committee is a very close-knit and very committed group of women. We've been at this now for our 27th year.
Daffodils and Diamonds is an organization that has a cancer luncheon every spring to raise money for cancer research. And we contribute to the National Foundation for Cancer Research.
We have been so impressed with the level of caring, support, and backing for our efforts.
They just have such a passion for what they're doing, the work that they're doing, and they talk about it regularly, and so you keep up to date on what's happening with them.
Well, NFCR is very good about communicating with us and telling us what they're doing and introducing us to scientists.
So now that we're supporting National Foundation for Cancer Research, we feel very much a part of the organization.
NFCR's founder lived in the Bethesda, Potomac area. His son does now. The international headquarters are right here in Bethesda, and that makes it so personal for so many people to know that this is happening right here.
One of the things that I really find interesting is that they've introduced me to women scientists, and I work in a girls' school, so that's exciting to me that I can talk to the girls about things that women are doing.
There are so many women just on my Daffodils and Diamonds committee who we have lost, who are fighting right now, and who are probably destined to face cancer in the future. We want to do everything we can to help ourselves, our daughters, our sons, our husbands, our community in facing what is an ongoing threat to so many of us.
I hope that someday cancer will be gone, that we won't ever have to talk about it anymore again.
I think cancer is it's the greatest problem that faces our nation today, and it just doesn't impact the patient, it impacts everybody who cares about and loves that person.
Cancer is not just limited to the United States. This is a global issue.
We have to eradicate this disease, and this is the best way to do it.
This is a noble mission of the NFCR. This is a search for a cure for cancer.
The NFCR is a world-class, first-rate organization with visionary leadership, and they understand that the only thing standing between cancer and cure is research funding. They get it.
We've now been around almost 35 years and have spent over $250 million.
One very unique feature of our funding for scientists is the flexibility.
And it's not like a federal grant. A federal grant, you pretty much have to have done what you said you're going to do before you apply for it, or else they're going to say there's no preliminary data.
You can't possibly plan out discoveries. By their very nature, they're discoveries. They're not expected. There's something you can't imagine, and you can't legislate it. You have to do it through people who you believe in and simply give them the opportunity to pursue their minds. That is a very different philosophy, and that is where NFCR and the Cancer Foundation stand out.
When they find talent, they invest in it long term. You know, they realize that the discovery may require more than 1 or 2 years.
They've been willing to follow us wherever we want to go, and whether it's a brilliant idea or a crazy idea or something in between, they've been willing to support this.
And there's this fabulous trust that we will choose wisely, and there are very few agencies that allow you that level of flexibility.
It's also important that any funding organization is to be very, very careful of what they fund.
We have a very established blue ribbon peer review committee every single time when we open up the research funding.
If you look through the scientists who've been sustained for decades by the NFCR funding,
you'll find some of the most outstanding and productive scientists who actually find new ways to treat cancer smarter.
Because this is a smart enemy, and this is an enemy that hides in us. And so we, in order to seek it out, we have to be able to see it, we have to be able to know what caused it, we have to be able to know what it needs to survive.
We're talking about 21st century medicine. We're talking about the molecular, the genetic causes, pathways of cancer. And now you're reading about targeted cancer therapies, where drugs can actually go in and target the genetic receptors on a cancer.
For example, we learned through some beautiful work from the Harvard team, and actually work done by Dr. Hal Dvorak, who has done the seminal work in this area that showed that tumors really depend on blood supply.
In 1983, Hal Dvorak at Harvard came to the NFCR wondering, why are all these tumors leaking? And with our funding, he discovered VEGF, the protein that makes that happen.
So we put tumor cells in tissue culture and let them grow for a time, and then cultured the supernate, the fluid in which they were growing. And we found in that fluid a substance with very great activity. And then we were able to purify that substance, and it turned out to be VEGF, or VPF as we originally called it.
And this is a hormone that actually causes, secreted by the tumor and tissues around the tumor, that causes blood vessels to grow into the tumor. And so, since you knew that that was a growth factor and it supplied the tumor with blood vessels, would there be a way to cut it off? And then with the development of a monoclonal antibody, pretty dramatic results. It causes responses in patients with colon cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer, our biggest killers, kidney cancer. It's a huge advance.
And that's something that NFCR in large part made possible. We've been funding that kind of research for years.
It's very painstaking, it takes a long time, but eventually it is the research that is going to help mankind control cancer.
It isn't only the funds from the National Foundation for Cancer Research, which of course are important, but it's the ability to get together, to talk to other scientists, to think about collaborations with them.
The NFCR has an extraordinary way of promoting collaborations, and not just within this country, but internationally.
Well, cancer knows no boundary.
There's no boundary, no barriers, so we have to work together.
Much of the cutting-edge discovery research, cancer research, not surprisingly, takes place outside of the United States.
We have funding going to support scientists at the UK and Germany and China and Italy. And wherever there are good minds and good ideas, we will be there.
Cancer is pretty rampant, and there's barely a family that has not been touched by cancer.
My sister was first diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer when she was 33 years old, and she fought the disease for about 6 years, and she recently passed at 39.
Yeah, I lost my father to pancreatic cancer 27 years ago. And I remember visiting him for the last time, and I made a pledge to myself and really to him that I was going to make a difference in this disease.
I have a 10-year-old daughter who was diagnosed with leukemia when she was 4, who's doing great. So when you go from professor to consumer, it's a life-changing event that really drives you.
When cancer comes that close to you, suddenly all your priorities change. They flip on a dime.
It's great to be able to make a scientific discovery and try to see something that nobody ever saw before. That's very self-satisfying. But the most satisfying thing is when something that you discovered actually helped somebody.
There's no really greater good that you can feel and do than help another patient get that quality of life and to have taken it from the bench to the bedside.
I've been doing this for 35 years now, and I would say the last few years have been the most exciting and most promising I've ever seen.
An optimist would say we're on the edge of the kinds of discoveries that the public wants, the kind of discoveries that the public, quite frankly, deserves.
Fasten your seatbelt, because I believe the next 10 years are going to be so much faster than the previous 10 years. And as you know, it can't be fast enough. We all have relatives, we all have friends who have been stricken with this disease called cancer. And it is something that everybody has a passion to make a difference in.
The discoveries that we make every year, every day, is helping somebody. You know, prolong somebody's life for a year is important, because if I can just have my sister one more year, I mean, what can you ask for?